Je suis là pour vous dire que le drapeau anglais est devenu un symbole de la haine. Now, if I was in France, everybody in the audience would understand that I was saying that I'm here to say that the English flag has become a symbol of hatred. But because I'm in England, everybody understands that basically that means this pretentious twat likes to show off that he speaks multiple languages. Because we all understand that gestures, symbols, words, their meaning depends entirely on the context, on who's saying it, on where it's being said, on what the culture that's seeing those symbols understands by those symbols. Now, in the case of the English flag, where do we see the English flag most often nowadays? Where do you see it most often these days?
On a lamppost.
Exactly. And what does this culture understand by the flags that we see on those lampposts? Well, according to YouGov, the majority of Brits believe that when they see those flags, they are put up by people who are expressing primarily anti-migrant, anti-ethnic minority sentiment more than it's about national pride. So it is a matter of statistical fact that when we see those flags, our primary understanding is a racist was here. Now, of course, the opposition will say that they believe that the flags represent national pride, St. George or Churchill's left nut or something. I don't know what it's about. But by definition, they are statistically the minority. In fact, only 25% of Brits believe that those flags that are being put up are about more national pride than they are about racism and xenophobia. And that actually drops to 15% among ethnic minorities who believe that those flags are being put up for racism and xenophobia more than national pride by a ratio of 11-3. Now that should be enough for those of you who have a conscience. Because if you know the ethnic minorities, when we see those flags, we see them as a threat. When you know that the campaign to put those flags up was largely spurred on by Tommy Robinson, when you know that we've had riots in this country where ethnic minority people were hunted in the streets in 2024 by people that were flying the St. George's flag, to tell us that we're seeing things is gaslighting of the highest order. Now, I want to thank Patrick for texting me the other day to tell me that he was going to be coming here, because what I find quite funny is that Patrick is going to be standing up here in a couple of minutes and telling us how he believes that the flag is primarily about national pride and it's not a symbol of division. Unfortunately, I have something on record.
What is essentially seen as some kind of civil resistance movement, which is to say, actually, you know what, we've taken all sorts of BS here for the last however many years, we've had enough, we're going to put the flag up.
Now that already sounds pretty divisive. It's about anger, it's about civil resistance, but he goes further.
If you don't like our flag, you should leave our country.
Okay, that's already pretty divisive as well. Let's step a little bit further and find out who it is he thinks doesn't like the flag and should leave the country.
Some of these councils that appear to be doing most of the taking down, as far as I can tell, now maybe this is because these are the areas where most of them have gone up. I don't think it is, but you've got Tower Hamlets there, and you've got Birmingham, and you know there's two areas there that demographically speaking, do not have a huge white British population. Oh, I wonder if that's got something to do with it. I don't know.
So, his message is, he doesn't believe that ethnic minorities like our flag, and if you don't like our flag, you should leave our country, and he's about to tell you that that flag is not a symbol of division. Interesting. Now, of course, as I've seen him do before, he's going to argue about, well, how come it's okay to put up Palestinian flags? But again, symbols depend on context. The majority of people in the UK support Palestine. We support an arms embargo on Israel, and whereas only 5% of people in the UK support Hamas, which means that when we see people supporting Palestine, nobody interprets it as a support for Hamas. So I presented you already with irrefutable evidence, statistical evidence, that for the people of the UK, what that England flag has grown to become is a symbol of hatred and division. And I've actually proven that with the opposition actually admitting not just that that's true, but that they are the reason why that's the case. So effectively, I have now won this debate. So how long have I got left, actually? Okay. Now, I have to apologize because I did order a proper England flag shirt on Amazon, but it arrived in Birmingham like an hour before this, and so I had to stop at the women's section of Asda, and then the children's section of Asda for the paint, and so here we are. And because the question I want to ask is, how do we fix that problem? How do we fix the problem that our national flag has become a symbol of hate? And the question is, how do we get here? Because right now you're seeing me in this, and nobody here is thinking that this is a symbol of division because you understand what my values represent. Again, symbols require context. But the problem we've seen is that the people that have been flying these flags in recent years, we've seen that they have bad intentions. I already mentioned the people that were hunting ethnic minorities in the streets while waving that flag. But also, as you probably have gathered, there has been a spot of nationalism in our politics over the past 10 years. Ever since David Cameron decided that he was going to call a referendum on leaving the EU as a way of sort of stealing the thunder from Nigel Farage, ever since then we've seen politicians on our screens competing for who can be the most intimate with a Union Jack. Now, obviously, the Union Jack is the slightly more progressive parent of the St. George's flag, but the point still stands. And as a result, ever since then, basically flag waving has become the calling card of right-wing nationalists. And their biggest demand of the past 10, 40 years has been Brexit. And I don't just say that shows that this flag waving has become is linked to bad intentions because Brexit has damaged every section of our society. I mean it because the people behind it have admitted that they're doing that intentionally. They are intentionally hurting us. I remember in 2017, Nigel Farage said, "Do you know what I'm asked about? Are we going to be richer or poorer with Brexit?" Do you know what my answer is? What price freedom? What price liberty? What price our identity as a country? These are the questions actually that really matter. So he explicitly said he did not care if it hurt the people of the UK. And now Brexit has hurt us. And I've got one of the Reform Party's candidates on camera saying that Brexit is making us poor, and that if they go for their no-deal Brexit thing, it'll damage our food supply for the next 20 years. So these people, they're explicitly saying they'll make us poor. Hell, in 2018, Andrew's government, it was leaked that your government analysis said that no matter what version of Brexit you negotiated, it was going to make people poor, which means you were doing something that you knew would hurt people. That's intentionally hurting the UK. Again, bad intentions. And of course, you'll argue democracy, etc. But ultimately, Brexit was about international relations, and Remain meant a very specific relationship. Leave was literally anything else. It could be anything from no deal to Norway, and it was only negotiated 3 years after the vote, at which point you had Nigel Farage's Reform Party saying they rejected it. You had the DUP, the pro-Brexit party, saying they rejected it. So you knew you didn't have the support of the 52%, and you knew it would hurt people, and yet you still went ahead with it, damaging the lives of millions of people. Again, these flag wavers have been proven to have deliberately bad intentions. And it's because of that people are seeing that this wave of right-wing nationalism, this flag waving, is not about patriotism, because it can't be. Because it can't be about sovereignty, it can't be about controlling immigration, it can't be about national pride, it can't be about some cry of the forgotten working class when you know that the actions of these people is hurting people, when you know that the people that are behind these movements are explicitly saying, we are hurting you. And if you know that it's not about that, then all you've got left is what they say about minorities, what they say about immigrants. That's all you've got left, because it's not about helping people. At which point, the only logical conclusion that it's about racism and xenophobia. And that's why, when people see those flags, that's what they understand by it. And the tragedy of it is people like those in the opposition, by supporting such damaging policies whilst waving the flag, they have tarnished our flag. They have tarnished our sense of national pride. Because I used to be personally, I used to be hugely proud of being British when I lived in France and lived in Belgium. Being the English guy was a huge part of my identity. I loved it. But it's because of the movements of what our country has done in recent years that my pride has been very much damaged. So if we actually, that's why I use the phrase hashtag take back Jack, because it is the responsibility of those who represent the decent values that most Brits share to reclaim that flag. Because ultimately, those who are pushing it in a damaging way, they are the minority. In almost every single election since World War II, apart from 3, the majority of votes have gone to parties to the left of the Conservatives. That's who we are as a country. We are a, broadly speaking, progressive, pro-equality country, but our voting system keeps giving us governments that are more right-wing than the actual people. They are the minority. So it is our job to reclaim this flag so that it actually represents the decent values that most of us share. And if we want to actually reclaim that flag, then what we have to do is we have to not be scared of wearing it, even if it means taking clothes from Asda at 10 p.m. And what we have to do is we need to call out the blatant lack of patriotism. We have to call out the blatant lack of patriotism of those who claim to care about this country, but while deliberately hurting it. Thank you very much.